Hey everyone, welcome back for chapter 25. Almost faster than Jack could follow, Lian sliced a hole in the coral bars using both swords, circling them in opposite directions. As soon as the coral bars fell into the cell, the swords disappeared into sheaths on her back just as quickly. "Ready, ladies?" she said, gesturing politely for them to exit. First Philip, then Jack slowly swam out of the cell as Lian waited impatiently. As soon as Jack's feet floated to the floor, he looked at Philip, who nodded. Immediately, they both threw themselves at the eye. Just as fast, she slammed both boys into each other and then flipped around, grabbed their arms, and yanked them up behind their backs. "Well, that was impressive," she said, pushing up as hard as both Jack and Philip caused groans of pain. "Here's the thing," she said. "I don't have time to beat you two up every other minute, so I'll just say this. I can always tell my queen I couldn't find you, then leave you to the Sea King. And that is going to be one unhappy father when he finds out humans killed his daughter." "We will not help you just to save ourselves," Philip shouted. "We could at least consider the idea," Jack hissed at the prince. Lian laughed. "If it helps your princesses, you will both be saving. You will also be saving your darling May. Do you really want to sentence her to death, or is it better that she stay alive with a grandmother who loves her?" "The wicked queen is not capable of such emotions," Philip said, as he struggled against Lian, who barely seemed to notice. "I'll admit she can be a bit heartless," Lian said, then giggled. "Sorry, inside joke." "So you're saying that you're okay with leaving May here to be eaten by the sharks then?" "No," Philip shouted through gritted teeth. "I shall do as you say, but the moment you—" "Sure, Lian said, then looked at Jack. "What about you, genius? You willing to throw away your life or your princesses just to spite me?" Jack just looked at her for a moment. "You do make it sound tempting, but no. You're right. I can wait for a better time to take you down." Lian raised an eyebrow but nodded. "That's close enough to yes. Well then, let's get to killing mermaids. First, the Sea Witch's old place." The tunnels they found themselves swimming through dove and rose at random, sometimes spiraling around before emptying out into another passageway. Lian didn't seem to have any problem with directions, as she never even hesitated when picking a new tunnel. Even the tunnel that led right to a dead end. "Whoops," Jack said with a wide smile. "Looks like someone's lost." Lian just rolled her eyes and pointed up. "Try not to be so stupid," she said. "It's hard, but give it a real effort. You don't have to just think in four directions when you're underwater." With that, she kicked off, shooting right into what looked to be the ceiling, but instead slipped into a crevice just big enough for a human or merman to slip through. This tunnel, if you could call it that, wasn't really much more than a vent in the rock, narrowing as it went. If Jack hadn't seen Lian slip through ahead of him, he would have doubted that he could make it through. Still, his shoulders scraped harshly against the rock at times, and the tight quarters began making Jack nervous for some reason, as if the walls had been waiting for just the right moment to collapse, and now was the time. Knowing his luck, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. Just when Jack thought he couldn't take any more of this, that he was going to get out of the tunnel now, Lian grabbed his arms and pulled him up into a room glowing with yellow light. Not yellow light, golden light. Gold. Gold everywhere. "One of the Sea King's treasure rooms," she said, pointing at the incalculable treasures all around them. Piles of gold coins large enough to dive into filled most of the room, barely held back from overflowing into the vent they had just crawled through. But it wasn't just the gold. There were vases full of red opals, blue rubies, orange sapphires. A statue made entirely of black rock that seemed to suck the light out of the room around it. Priceless books. Well, the books hadn't stood up too well in the water, but the rest was still really impressive. "Spoils of war from attacking humans," Lian said. When the Sea King first declared that no human was allowed in or on the water again, most didn't believe him. So mermen sunk ship after ship until the message got through. "I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying everyone's stories today," Jack said. "But aren't we in a hurry to get out of here? Maybe saving your uplifting history lessons for your next victims." "Someone's cranky," Lian said indignantly. "Anyway, we have to go slow. Any alarm here will warn the Sea King, and that will mean we end up as fish food." "I can handle slow," Jack said. Lian winked at him irritatingly, and then led them to a wall on the opposite side, to another horrifying tiny vent. She pushed and pulled and inched her way in, scraping off a few scales on her fake tail as she went. Jack looked at Philip with a sick look and then followed her in. What felt like 5 of the worst years of his life later, Jack pulled himself into a new room, this one with coral bars all around the open walls. I think we took a wrong turn somewhere, Jack told Lian, who put a finger to her lips. No talking, she whispered. They shouldn't be hungry. I think they were just fed, but let's not give them an excuse. Them, Jack said, and then felt a wave of water brush against his back. Jack slowly turned around to see row upon row of jagged, rough teeth swimming right over him. Man-eating sharks, Lian said, as another one of 20-foot-long fish swam directly below them, its black eyes dead and some sort of undead monster. Well, merman-eating sharks. All of the ones in here have attacked merfolk at one point or another. The mer people don't kill them, since sharks are just doing what comes naturally, so they lock them up away for safety reasons. What do they feed them, Jack asked, as one of the creatures swam by with something red and unpleasant hanging from its mouth. Usually fish, Lian said, swimming away slowly, but if you didn't tell the Sea King what he wanted to know, you'll find out what else pretty quick. Every inch of Jack wanted to swim away as fast as he could, but Lian kept barely moving, each of her strokes displacing almost no water whatsoever. Jack tried to match that, but any time a shadow fell over him, he couldn't help himself, and he had to kick away as fast as he could. Jack, Phillip shouted, and then yanked Jack down as one of the creatures swam right through the spot Jack had been, its tooth-filled mouth open wide in anticipation. That one had been watching you, the prince told him. I think we should exit this area as fast as possible. Up ahead, Lian pushed herself into yet another crevice, and Jack was never so happy to see one. The monstrous creatures were far too large to fit into such a small space, but why was she taking so long to go in? Anytime you're ready, Jack said, his voice rising in panic. The creature that had narrowly missed him had already circled around for a second pass, and his dead black eyes locked on Jack's. The mermaid finally disappeared into the crevice, but it was too late. If Jack tried to get in now, the creature would bite him in half as he wriggled up inside the vent. Go, Jack, I will protect you, Phillip said, pushing Jack up to the opening. From that? Jack asked. Go! Jack quickly yanked himself up and desperately pulled himself in, but it was slow going. The vent was just too narrow. Below him, he could almost feel the creature approaching, closing in, its mouth wide open. And then Phillip punched the creature right in the nose. The shark reared up and then swam right past the prince, its dead black eyes looking almost surprised. But surprise wasn't going to work more than once, and Jack moved as fast as he could, finally giving the prince enough room to start in as well. Hurry, Jack hissed as Jack made his way up. Fortunately, the crevice opened up ahead into a new room, so Jack quickly pulled himself out of the way. He glanced down into the vent, but only saw darkness. Phillip? Jack asked, and then a hand popped out, almost stopping Jack's heart, until he realized it was still attached to an arm. Jack quickly pulled Phillip up and out, and the prince seemed whole enough. Well, except for a huge hole ripped into his pants leg. Let's never do that again, Phillip said, his eyes wild. Shh, Lian said, smacking the prince in the back of the head. She swam slowly forward, listening to the voices from the other room. Let's not forget we need to get Jack and Phillip out before we go, May said, and Jack suddenly felt a world of tension drain out of him, just knowing that May was alive, okay, and feeling good enough to be complaining pretty much as usual. We will, said another voice, one that sounded like the mermaid from the Sea Witch's lair. But first we must find the Sea Witch's songbooks. Lian's eyes narrowed and she inched forward. So you keep looking and I'll go get the boys, May said, and her voice got louder as she spoke, as if she were swimming closer. Aha, the mermaid said. I think I found them. And by the way, that direction leads to the shark pens. Stay with me if you want to be safe. Ah, Lian said as she swam out into the other room. But what if you're the one in danger? With that, she drew both her swords and flew out of Jack's view. Two women screamed, and a third voice, a masculine one, shouted, all before Jack could even move. And then one of the women went silent, and the entire room exploded with light. All right, I'll see you guys for the next chapter. Bye.